All right. Well, welcome everybody to the first traffic calming meeting for Mulberry Downs Circle. We're meeting virtually here July 28th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. My name is David Greaves. I'm an engineer that works with NDOT on the traffic calming program, and I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting as well as doing the design. Just a quick word about the agenda for tonight. We're going to start with kind of a broad program overview, talk about, sort of what we do and why we do it. And then I want to hear from you all about what sorts of, things you're seeing on Mulberry Downs Circle. I'd like to kind of get a sense of, what inspired you all to apply, as well as any ideas that you may have for solutions that we could implement. Next, we're going to talk about some of the specific tools we have in the traffic calming toolbox. And then we'll kind of close out by looking at a really rough draft design. Certainly not kind of the final option, but just something to get us started. And then we'll end with kind of the next project steps. So what will happen after tonight's meeting. So this recorded meeting is going to be posted to YouTube, Metro Nashville's YouTube page, shortly after we finish up tonight. For anyone who may be watching the recording, want everyone to know that there's currently a survey live at NDOT.Nashville.gov/traffic-calming, and that can be accessed at the QR code as well. So if you're not here with us tonight but are joining later, or if you are here with us tonight and just prefer to communicate that way, the survey is open online for at least several more weeks. So there's plenty of time to offer your feedback, if not right now. But let's get kicked off on the program overview. So the traffic calming program, that's what NSTC stands for, is one that focuses on residential streets. So we're not doing the Dickerson Pike kind of arterials. It's mainly for neighborhoods where people live. This is a program that encourages the use of physical solutions to encourage lower speeds over significant lengths. We'll talk about some specifics later when we dig into the toolbox. And one of the primary goals of the traffic calming program is speed reduction. And we'll also cover why that's such an important piece in just a minute. But before we do that, we'd just like to cover the 3 E's of traffic calming. Those are education, enforcement, and engineering. Now, I've got engineering bold and underlined here because that is the piece that the Nashville Department of Transportation has the greatest ability to affect. So basically what we're saying is we'd like to design a solution that will enforce speeds all the time, rather than only relying on education or enforcement to, encourage safe driving. Again, we've got some ideas on how to do that specifically, but this is sort of where we're coming from there. Now, the reason that speed reduction is such an important goal of the traffic calming program is because it ties directly into safety. So the infographic we're seeing sort of demonstrates that if a pedestrian is, walking and is hit by a car, if they're going 25 miles an hour, they've got a pretty good chance of surviving. However, that chance of survival starts to go way down as the vehicle speeds go up. And we think it's pretty intuitive, but it can be somewhat, bleak odds as the speeds climb up above 45 miles an hour. So all that is to say, when we have neighborhoods apply and see that they're experiencing speeding that's this severe, we think it's something that's really worth paying attention to and addressing. This is a really popular program. So in March of 2025, when Mulberry Downs was selected, you were in a group of 25 neighborhood streets that kind of landed at the top of our prioritization list. And that was out of over 600. So you can see on the map to the right hand of the screen, this is from Nashville's live traffic calming tracker that shows every traffic calming project that is both applied, been selected, and ultimately built. We'll take a zoomed in shot of Mulberry Downs in just a minute, but this can be accessed at TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov if anyone's curious to kind of poke around and see where else in the city we're doing projects like this. So there are a few things that the traffic calming program does, but lots of things that Metro Nashville does outside of this program. A few things would be things like sidewalks or bike lanes, requests for new traffic signals. And we like to remind anyone that if there are things that come up tonight that we can't handle with a project like this, Hub Nashville is a resource that can be used to request just about anything, whether it's debris in the road, a pothole, or a more serious project like a sidewalk improvement or a traffic signal. So that can be accessed by calling 311, going to hub.nashville.gov, or there's a mobile app that makes it pretty easy to make requests as well. A little bit about how specifically Mulberry Downs wound up at the top of that prioritization list I just mentioned. We essentially take a lot of data after a street has applied. So we'll go ahead and measure vehicle speeds, the volume of vehicles, that's like how many people are driving on a street at a given point in time. We also look at crash history. So if any pedestrians or cyclists have been hit within 10 years of the application, you'll get some points. Same thing with sidewalks. You get points if you don't have another place to walk. That's just because, if we know that people are sharing the pavement with cars, it's especially important that they're driving safely. And then that last 5% there is trip destination. So that's, your proximity to things like parks or schools, libraries, things that we would expect to generate pedestrian trips. A couple of stats about Mulberry Downs. So the project that we're talking about tonight was Berrywood Way to Dickerson Pike. That's what came in from the application form. So we just left those limits how they were. The 85th speed is pretty surprising here. So what that means is 85% of those measured were going below that number and 15% were going above that number. So that is 47 miles an hour. That is very high for a street where the speed limit is 30 and definitely too high for a street that, people's houses are on. So we do see some pretty serious speeding in Mulberry Downs. I suspect that's, why what inspired you all to apply to the program. The volume wasn't too bad. Less than 1,000 is usually, not considered super high. And then you do have a very wide street. So along the length, it varies a little bit, but between 30 feet and 37 feet is the pavement width we're looking at. And then lastly, this is just a map of the project. So it extends from Berrywood Way to Dickerson Pike. So it's kind of that whole length. So you've got kind of the neighborhood section over here. And then to the east, it's a little more woodsy. I know that this neighborhood here has been built out. We're kind of aware that the street grid has changed in the somewhat recent past. Or at least since the background map was built here. And then, if you're interested in what some other traffic calming projects look like, just across Dickerson Pike, this neighborhood here has gotten a couple of projects installed. This is the part of the presentation that I want to pause and first take any questions that y'all may have about what I've covered so far. But I'd also love to hear from you, about why Mulberry Downs, should be considered for traffic calming. Kind of what made you all apply? What are you experiencing that you're looking to be improved? Anyone is welcome to come off mute by to speak up, or the chat is also fine. I've got my eyes on that. Hey, David, can you? Oh, go ahead.
How long is that stretch that you're showing there in the highlighted yellow?
That is a good question. seems to
Probably closer
be
to
like between
0.4.
a quarter and a half mile, but I can check the specific length.
And maybe you'll get to this in part of the presentation, but how many speed cushions are you planning to put along that roughly 0.4 mile distance?
Yeah, we'll cover that in the concept, but the rough draft, we've got 5. They're kind of close to the western side where the houses are.
The main
I
concern,
see. Oh, sorry, go
the
ahead.
main concerns for a lot of people in the community has been the stretch of Berrywood Way to Dickerson Pike, how people are using it as Audubon. It's hard for people to get out on Mulberry Way. And then you come in Berrywood, also people come off the hill from Skybridge going excessively fast. So that's the main reason for us to do the calming.
Got it. That makes sense. I definitely, it's not hard to imagine coming off of Dickerson Pike, people would be going a little faster than maybe they might drive in a neighborhood. And yeah, certainly with the speeds we're seeing, that checks out.
David, would you be okay with me sharing my screen for a quick second? Talking through something?
I think that you can only do that if you're a co-host. That wouldn't be you, would it? Actually, let me try to make you a presenter and see if that works. What are you gonna share, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm actually a traffic engineer as well, and so I've taken a look at this, and I just kind of had a couple thoughts on a few things just to see if you had looked at them yet.
Yeah, sure. I think I've that. Will you try sharing?
Yeah, are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to give some quick context for the area, just because if you're not over there, you might not see it, but especially for the Mulberry Downs neighborhood, which is the one on kind of the lower portion here.
Mhm.
This loop is pretty commonly walked, especially in the afternoons when a lot of vehicles are coming through. They kind of walk out onto the main street here and continue around. The bicycle lanes, I wouldn't say are commonly used for cyclists. They're more or less sidewalks for pedestrians. So if there was a restriping job just to get some extra space, I think the biggest thing that people walking would want to see is some protection if they can. I know none of the bike lanes are buffered today, so you're right up against the vehicles, and those lane widths can get as wide as 14 feet. So if you could narrow some of those lanes, I think it would help a lot. And then someone had mentioned it, but a big part of the speeding concern is coming out of the new subdivision. And there's no stop controlled intersections anywhere between that neighborhood and the entrance at Dickerson Pike.
Mhm.
And we also have a park here, and it's also a pretty common place for school children to stage in the morning and get off in the afternoon. So I guess two of the main things that I would be interested in you looking at is if there's a chance of always stops being warranted at one or both of these intersections to get vehicles to come to a complete stop and to allow pedestrians to cross if they need to, or looking at traffic circles at either of these locations.
Yeah, well, thank you for putting so much, effort into this concept. It definitely is, one approach that would make improvements. I will say, in terms of doing stop control and crosswalks and things, that does fall a little bit outside of a typical traffic calming project. But I'll discuss it with the team and see if, maybe if the paving schedule is coming up, we can think about that. So anyway, I can't give you a yes or no on if we'll do that right now, but yeah, I appreciate the input for sure.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Hey. Also just wanted to add to Matt's point. Not sure if this is going to be considered in the priority for any projects, but as you saw in the picture, the houses are like aren't over the whole Mulberry Downs. Like as you can see, there's forest on both sides, both the left and the right side, for a fair amount of Mulberry Downs. It's only when you hit that playground area that Matt pointed out, that's where the houses start. So not sure if that would influence or change priority for the whole street, but just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'll talk a little bit about how that affected our initial design draft when we're there, but it is something that, you know, we've noted when we came up with our concept. Great.
I'm sorry, David, just to add to that
Sure,
context.
please.
While those areas are currently undeveloped, there is already an SP for development on the north side of the of Mulberry Downs Circle, where at Dickerson Road and Mulberry Downs Circle on the north side. The south side has not. There is not anything, any development already approved for that area, but just as we are looking at this traffic calming for Mulberry Downs Circle, it is prudent to look at the entire street because at some point those areas may be developed. So I'll say that.
Yeah, that's a good to know. Appreciate you cluing us into the development activity that's in the,
What is
in the
an
pipeline.
what is an SP for the north side development? What is SP?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going into the weeds here, but an
no,
SP is
that's
a
totally fine.
specific
Please feel
plan.
free to share.
It's a specific plan zoning, and what that means is it's not a straight rezone where you're just doing a, for example, I think your neighborhood is zoned RS for residential single family, 10,000 square foot lots. It's not a blanket rezone like that. A specific plan is specific to whatever the development is. In this case, there are townhomes, and I can't remember, I want to say 166 townhomes. I can't remember offhand. This was something that we met with the community about and discussed at least 2 years ago. And so I don't have all those details in front of me, but a SP is a specific plan. So whatever specifically is going to be developed in that, on that property, down from the materials that'll be used on the houses, it all has to be specific to whatever was approved.
Jennifer, was those the 120 townhomes they were putting up at right as you come into the right of Mulberry Downs? As you come over the hill?
That must be what, yes, that's the property I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
That's going to bring Tuckahoe through. Is that the same one?
Does that bring, no, I don't think that one doesn't connect to Tuckahoe because there's another
Okay.
property between that
There,
property and Tuckahoe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, definitely appreciate the tangent there. Good to know about the potential development, and we will, you know, kind of keep that in mind. Is everyone ready for me to resume sharing the screen and start talking about the toolbox that we've got? All right. Okay, great. Everyone can see the slides. Awesome. So first item in our toolkit, this is one that is used most often in the traffic calming program, are called speed cushions. These are modular rubber devices that get bolted on to the pavement. So you don't need to have like a repaving project for them. And when a road gets repaved, they kind of just come up and then go back down. So they're convenient in that way, very modular. They're about 3 inches tall. They're intended to work similar to speed bumps, but stretched out so that a higher target speed is achieved, Basically, what that means is we're not looking for people to go 5 or 10 miles an hour like you might see in a parking lot. We're really shooting for 20 to 25 at the speed cushion locations. And then the hope there is that on a road like Mulberry Downs, the prevailing speed would be around 30, kind of the speed limit that we're hoping for. Similar to those are speed tables. These stretch all the way across the road. So the main difference here is that these do not allow emergency vehicles quite as much leeway as speed cushions do. So when you see the gaps in between cushions, those are intended to reduce the impact to larger vehicles such as fire trucks and ambulances, while maintaining impact to smaller, like private vehicles. We use these most often because we've seen that they work. They're a good way to achieve the program's goals. So a study that we conducted in March of 2023 did before and after counts on 6 projects where we found the average speed come down from 31 miles an hour to 22, and the 85th percent speed came down from 37 down to 25. Certainly, y'all are seeing speeds a little higher than that, at least in the location that we counted. But we would hope that speeds would come down to a much more manageable and safe level if we went with a design that included vertical measures. There are plenty of places where speed cushions or really any vertical measures aren't such a good idea. Those include hills of a certain steepness, as well as curves that are below a certain tightness. So when we encounter situations like that, we'll sometimes do what's called radar feedback signs. I think most people have encountered these before, but it's a solar-powered device mounted to a speed limit sign, and it flashes the speed of an approaching vehicle back at them as they're approaching the sign. So the idea is if you are maybe inadvertently going much faster than you should, this would give you an indication that you should slow down. We also do pavement narrowing. So that's something we've heard mentioned so far in the feedback. And what this does is kind of psychologically make a road feel a little more claustrophobic. The thinking is if you have a lot of room to maneuver, a lot of kind of leeway as you're driving, it's much easier to go fast without feeling any kind of discomfort. You feel like you're on a highway, and you'll drive like you're on a highway. So when we narrow the lane widths, that can induce slower speeds by countering that effect. It's not a physical measure; it's just paint on the road, so it doesn't do that much, but it can increase the comfort for pedestrians. Like if I walk over here, I'm on this side of the line, and vehicles are on that side of the line. That's one effect that it can have, but in general, it's more of a supplement than a primary design tool for traffic calming projects. At intersections that are excessively large, we sometimes do what are called bulb outs. So these work similar to pavement narrowing, but at intersections. Basically, when you have really large turning radii, it's easy to take that turn quicker than might be safe for a pedestrian environment. So we narrow that from the outside in by tightening the turning radius so that turns happen at a speed slow enough that you'd have time to see a pedestrian that's walking across the road. Another benefit is it shortens the distance that pedestrians have to cross. So right now, with a roadway that's 37 feet, that takes quite a bit longer, where you're potentially conflicting with vehicles than if it was narrowed down to kind of the 20 feet 2-lane distance. We can also do things called chicanes. This is where the center line is zigzagged back and forth along the length of the roadway. This is Fairfax Avenue over in the Hillsborough West End neighborhood. So you can see that these are compatible with bike lanes if a roadway is wide enough. I'll have to check. This may be closer to like 40 feet than 37, but these are something that we might consider on Mulberry Downs, since you do have quite a bit of pavement to work with. I'd say the one downside is it can affect on-street parking if you limit it to only one side. But from what I've seen so far, it doesn't look like there's tons of on-street parking happening right now, so maybe that's not as big of a deal. And then lastly, we do sometimes do traffic circles. I will say these aren't super common in the NSTC program, primarily just because we need to make sure the intersections are wide enough that all the necessary turning movements can be made, whether it be a school bus or fire trucks and things. So with that, I will flip over to our concept and just give a quick narration of what we have going on. So as I mentioned, we do vertical measures, but we don't do them where hills are too steep. So what we have on the right side, it's both wooded, but it's also a really big hill. So we're kind of climbing up from left to right and then going all the way back down to Dickerson Pike. It does flatten out at the top. So we theoretically could do a speed cushion here. I'd probably want to check where that driveway is going for the specific plan before we do that. But we decided, for this like first concept draft to sort of keep the series of vertical measures over in the neighborhood and then do some radar feedback signs in the more like wooded, less residential neck of the woods. I did call out narrowing the entire length with edge lines to 10-foot lanes. We hope that will both increase the buffer between the bike lane and the travel lanes, as well as just make it a little less comfortable to drive as fast as people are driving today. Would love any additional feedback or questions on any of the tools. Also would love some more ideas if y'all have any about what we might be missing, things we should consider while we do our site visit and refine the design. So anyone who would like to share anything, please feel free to speak up.
I have a question. How tall will the speed cushions be?
They are 3 inches tall.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Did
Would
have one
the-
question. Oh, go ahead.
Is it possible to consider changing those speed cushions perhaps at Berrywood Way and or Strawberry Curve to speed bumps?
It is not. So on public roadways where we do expect, people to be driving around the speed limit, speed bumps are slower than we really want people going on roads like these. So speed cushions are kind of the most vertical measure that we can do.
And just to confirm that mainly because I think you said it's a public road.
That's correct.
Okay.
Have a with Taylor, was that you that asked are speed cushions the only option in the chat? Anyway, so somebody in the chat asked, are speed cushions the only option? As far as vertical measures are, pretty much, because Mulberry Downs is one, like, it's the main way to access quite a bit of neighborhood. We don't want to do tables here, given their greater impact to emergency vehicles. So cushions are a pretty deliberate choice here. There are plenty of designs that don't rely on vertical measures that we could consider, but we'd prefer to have this be kind of option or approach A. We'll talk about sort of how it might proceed, but anyway, so they're not the only option, but they're definitely the approach that we kind of lean on for speed reduction projects like this. I guess with that, let's see. Yeah, so I've got a question about physical separation between within the buffer of the bike lane. I'll look into it. Usually those will happen with different types of projects. So that would kind of bring it solidly into a sidewalks, bikeways program type of installation, but there is possibly some opportunity to collaborate and do those improvements as well. So I will look into it. I appreciate the request, but I'll have to let you know after tonight.
Thanks, David.
We've got.
Yeah, the only reason
ahead.
I was asking is because it sounded like you were considering lane narrowing. So if they were coming back to restripe, I assume they may consider resurfacing. So it just could be a good opportunity.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is reach out to that team, see what everyone's got the kind of budget capacity to work on, and I can follow up and let you know sort of how that conversation goes. Making a note of that really quick, just to make sure we cover that. Anything else before I move on to how this project kind of proceeds after tonight?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it necessary to have so many speed cushions between Mulberry Way and Berrywood Way? And with the final decision, is that something that the residents are going to be able to vote on?
The answer to the first question is no. So the way that we design projects like these is we take NDOT's speed cushion design guides, and those say that these work best at a spacing between 300 and 500 feet apart. That is because at 500 feet further apart than that, you have to get up to like a higher speed before you get to the next cushion. So it's you have kind of an opportunity to make up for lost time, and then lower than that is sort of diminishing returns. So these, I think, on the left are closer to that 300-foot range, whereas the right-hand side, I think, are more like 400. I think that if we went down to fewer cushions, though, they would start to kind of land like on the intersections, and that might not be ideal. I think 4 might be feasible. I can look into that if that's something y'all are interested in, but 4 or 5 is kind of what we were thinking would be the right number. I've got Dave Goss raise his hand.
Sorry, I meant to hit thumbs up. I think 4 would be more appropriate than 5, but that's what I meant to do. 4.
Got it. Cool. Well, why don't any other feedback? We talk about the kind of the voting and the next steps. Okay. Awesome. Well, why don't we move on? We can come back to this too. We'll have time for questions, at the end of the meeting as well. Just want to make sure we cover everything without taking up too much of y'all's evening. So what we're seeing now is a flow chart of the program. As I mentioned, this started with an application, in this case from the Homeowners Association. We then did the prioritization and selection process we discussed, and we're here tonight at the neighborhood meeting. This was advertised through mailers, also posted on NDOT's Instagram and community calendar. I think maybe also publicized by the HOA itself. So anyway, glad you all made it here tonight. After this, we're going to take the feedback that we gathered both in this meeting as well as on that online survey I mentioned earlier, and do a field review and then refine the concept design. So I've got a few things I need to discuss with our partners at NDOT, coordination items to take a look at that SP development, but then we're going to take that and generate some construction plans. Once those have been completed, we can either schedule a second neighborhood meeting where we present what we came up with, and then move to an online ballot where we post those plans online and allow all of the owners of properties that touch the affected right-of-way. We'll take a look at the image that is in just a minute. And then should that be successful, that'd be 66% of people voting yes, it would go to construction. I will say the construction timeline is a little wild. There's a pretty big backlog of projects waiting to be built, and we try to do those in order as much as we can. So 8 to 10 months is kind of the average amount of time, but it sort of swings in both directions as well. You'll sort of notice that second neighborhood meeting bubble is grayed out. If y'all want, we can do our construction plans, post them online, and just go straight to the balloting and save everyone a second meeting. But we're happy to do it either way. So I guess what I'll ask you all is does anyone like want to have a second meeting, or would anyone like strongly prefer not to have one? You're welcome to speak up or throw in the chat. It doesn't really matter.
David, I have a question about the second meeting. It sounds like there's a consensus and there are, I guess, 17 participants on this call. When the balloting goes out, will it go out to the entire neighborhood? Normally it goes out to just the residents on that street, but since there aren't any actual residents well, maybe at Mulberry Way, who all would be able to vote on this plan?
That's a great question that is best answered with a picture. So I'm going to skip forward a couple slides so we can come back. So this is a little wonky, but the policy that we consistently stick to in the traffic calming program is it is the owners of parcels that abut the affected right-of-way. Where that gets weird is when a condo type development owns land in common, then they all will get to vote. So what we see here is a few really large vacant lots. The residences that are on the ends of these streets that touch circle, and a bunch of condos that are up on those other streets. So I know that is strange, but when interpreted, specifically, like this is the outcome of that policy.
That's helpful. And as far as the next or having another meeting, is the consensus on this call that the speed bumps maybe -1, 4 instead of 5 with the radar signs is what everybody would like to see? I guess I'm asking that question as to if that is the consensus, then maybe a second meeting is not needed. However, if there are going to be some changes to the plan that aren't discussed here, then another meeting might need to be held.
Since we have 120 homes here and it's only 17 people on this call, if it's possible to have a second meeting or a mailing to all residents here, because I guarantee you, once we give a consensus on something, somebody is not going to agree. So is there a way that we can send the mailing out to all homes or have a second meeting?
We can definitely have a second meeting, and we'll definitely send mail to this group. When you say all homes, is it the entire? I guess I'm not exactly sure where the
The entire,
homeowners association boundary lies.
it's every home that's here in Mulberry Downs, and it's 120 from Mulberry Way, Strawberry Cove, Berrywood Way, and Cranapple. So everyone goes out. That's our main thoroughfare to go out. I would think we would get a better consensus if everybody have their own input towards that.
Understood. Yeah, we can definitely advertise this to the whole group. And yeah, we're happy to have a second neighborhood meeting and let, really whoever come, that's always the case.
I would
So
also
we'll go ahead. Oh,
like
go
to
ahead.
point out here, looking at that graphic on the left side, you mentioned those are condos. Those are townhomes in the neighborhood of Sky Ridge, and those folks have to go all the way around that curve and then down a side street before they can even get to their place. So I would suggest adding the people that are in the beginning of Sky Ridge to be able to vote on this, because people come down Mulberry Downs, they bottom out in Mulberry Downs neighborhood, and then they come even faster up the hill around the corner right there, kind of where those condos or townhomes are.
Understood. That is definitely something that stuck out to me. I'll have a conversation with the rest of the team kind of about what they think, how we might want to handle this, because of the cases where that policy generates kind of odd effects. This is definitely one of them. So I appreciate you sharing that. It makes sense. And yeah, I think what we'll definitely do is have a second meeting, make sure that kind of the Mulberry Downs HOA group is fully informed it's happening. And also feel free to share the recording of this to anyone that might be curious. In the meantime, this will be up on the internet for anyone to see. So we want to make sure folks are informed. But yeah, when we draw our line of kind of the specific, affected parcel owners, this is that calculus.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Andrea. I live on Apple Valley, and I see where they are adding more homes. They've opened up the dead end area. However, on Mulberry Way, on that very first street, cars are flying up and down the street where the playground is really, really bad. Are speed bumps, I don't know if you said it earlier, are speed bumps even an option for the side streets? Maybe
Yeah,
not
so
like out. Go ahead.
no, that's a great question. This program specifically handles streets one at a time. That can
Okay.
sometimes feel a little narrow or illogical, but we have tried it in kind of a more like neighborhood focus, and it created a lot of unforeseen complications that made some projects like basically come to a standstill, and others just sort of get mired in who gets speed cushions and who doesn't, which we want to avoid. So what I want to let you know is that we would love for that street, or maybe like the string of streets, if it's Apple Valley Circle to Mulberry Way, to apply. Certainly, if that speeding and cut through traffic is happening already. And that application window is opening soon. I think it'll be like maybe the first 2 weeks of September. But I can let you all know if you're interested in applying for more streets. Yeah, I've got a comment in the chat that the map we're looking at is a little out of date. I do know that. We've got aerial imagery that we use on the plans, so that'll be like fully up to date. I do know that this is no longer just kind of a dead end neighborhood.
Can you please go over again who has the right to vote? You said something about adjacent. I wanted to make sure I understood who actually
Yeah,
gets to vote.
yeah. So what I've got on the screen now is the map of that like ballot eligibility list. So it is specifically the owners of parcels whose properties abut the right of way. So in the case of the townhomes that we mentioned, like they all own in common the land that surrounds the buildings themselves. So that's why they are included. But then for the individual lots that are like up the side street on Mulberry Way, Apple Valley Circle, those don't touch the road, so they're not included in this list. Now, like I said, I do realize that this is a weird result and certainly has potential to maybe like not be asking the people that are most affected by this because I assume most of you all don't actually live in one of these houses that touches the street, but you use it all the time, of course. So that's another thing on my list to look into, see if we include the HOA as well as those parcels, because I think in this case it makes sense, but it just doesn't meet quite the letter of that balloting policy.
So not every home, just the homes that are adjacent to the street.
Exactly.
Okay, so not everyone in our neighborhood would need to get a letter because not everyone will vote. It's just the homes that are adjacent to the main drive.
That's how the
Mhm.
program like
Okay.
operates. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I understand now.
But we did make the suggestion, Tracy, that
Mhm.
a second meeting or a letter to everyone. So he's going to get with his team and get back with us.
Okay, because I thought, yeah, that is kind of narrow, but I didn't know how else we could do it.
The way that's looking is there's only 5 houses in the Mulberry Downs neighborhood that would
Exactly.
vote. And even if 3 out of 5 of them said yes, that's 60%. He said you need 66%. So in this
Mhm.
scenario, you'd need 4 out of 5 to vote, plus all the townhome folks. They'd factor into that percentage. But I think
Right.
that the townhome folks are the wrong target, and that's what he's saying is, by the letter, this is the map he gets, but he's going to try to see if he can get an exception to the map and see if we can get other people to vote. I think that's what I understood.
Okay. Well, that'd be good because that wouldn't be very many houses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would be
confirmed.
poor sample size. Absolutely.
Mhm.
David, I'm wondering if, because that park on the corner of Mulberry Downs Circle and Mulberry Way is owned by the HOA, if that could maybe qualify some of the other homes in the neighborhood, since it is kind of partially their property as well.
Perhaps. I definitely take your point. I didn't need like more convincing, but yes, I think that's yeah, it's certainly worth bringing up, and thank you for making that known. Just a couple other quirks to cover. So when we do encounter like the same person owning multiple properties, we'll just send them one vote. We don't intend for your votes to be like proportional to how many properties you own. And then also if any properties are like vacant, we don't send ballots to empty pieces of land.
Mhm.
Churches and schools each get one vote. I don't believe you have any on this particular stretch, but that's another piece of our balloting policy. And then any like operating businesses. So again, I don't think you have any like restaurants or anything on this street, but we're looking for like the residents of the street when we're doing this. I'm going to circle back one slide just to cover what the ballot will look like. We're not going to spend too long on this because we'll cover it in the second meeting, but we do send postcards to everyone who's voting. We'll get a unique ID on each of those just to make sure that the votes are accurate. And we also put the date that the voting closes on there. Should be about 6 weeks after we send out the cards, so there's plenty of time. And we do encourage, you know, if you get your card, maybe like make sure your neighbors also got theirs. It's not unheard of for it to get either lost in the mail ahead of time, or if it's anything like I do my mail, probably thrown away. So we just want to make sure people are kind of keeping in touch when those postcards start to come out. It's an online ballot, but you can also call the number if you prefer to use the phone, and you get to vote yes or no.
Did anyone in Mulberry Downs get a card about this meeting? Because I didn't know about this meeting until I got an email today.
I think I received an email about a month ago.
There was an email that came out from the HOA a month ago. I'm telling you to save the date. The email that came out today was with the link because we just got the link today. We try to get that out to you as quickly as we can when we get it.
Okay, because I didn't remember getting an email. Okay, thanks. But we'll get will it be a physical piece of mail for the second meeting, or will it be another email?
Both. So we'll send a card
Okay.
that looks kind of like this, but I'll also keep everyone in the HOA informed so they can help publicize the meeting again. So that's all I've got to cover, but I am happy to take any questions, hear any further feedback, really whatever discussion we've got. Feel free to speak up.
David, I may have missed this, so if I did, forgive me. Did you give us a timeline for when you will be able to go back and discuss with the team what has been discussed here today, and when you will have a second revised plan for everybody to look at for that second meeting?
Yeah, you did not miss it. I glossed over it. So the design phase is usually around 2 months. I will say we've got more things to look into tonight than a standard project. So perhaps a little longer, but we'll go out and do our site visit, have our discussions with NDOT, kind of ASAP, and then, hopefully get some quick answers and be able to move forward with design.
Okay. So at least 2 months before we hear back from you, and anyone who's interested in applying for traffic calming for Apple Valley Circle, the applications will open up. We think the first 2 weeks in September, and it's usually a 2-week window. And so want to make sure if someone on Apple Valley Circle wants to apply for traffic calming for Apple Valley Circle, probably need to do that during that September opening, because we probably won't hear back from NDOT and David about this project before that time frame closes, and the next time to apply won't be until the spring.
Yes, that's all correct. There may be some upcoming changes to the ballot window period. I'm not sure if they're like totally worked out yet, so I won't give y'all potentially wrong information. But at the very least, first 2 weeks of September likely will be that next ballot window. And these can be applied for by an HOA, so you don't need to do kind of the 4 individuals. But yes, that's all correct.
I saw in the chat a side note question, and if you will indulge me 30 seconds,
Please.
I'll try to answer it, because it's not related to this. It's related to what is being developed on Dickerson Pike next to Thornton's. That is actually District 5, but I do know that that development, I believe a specific plan was passed to develop residential, not single family, townhomes and multifamily. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it will be residential, multifamily and townhomes. Thank you.
Great. Well, going back to our question slide, want to let everyone know my contact information is on the screen, as well as the survey QR code, again, for anyone that might be watching the recording. If you do email me, I'll ask you to also include NDOT TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. That way everyone can stay in the loop and not just me.
Thank you.
And David, you said there's a
Matthew's going to drop. I want to catch this. If you want to share that map with the stop signs, maybe that would be helpful, just as an option to the area people that can see if that's perhaps a good solution as well.
Yeah, I can email it to David.
Cool. Appreciate it, Matt.
And also, you said there's a recording of this meeting?
That's correct. So I'm recording it right now. It'll stop when the meeting ends, and then we'll post it to Metro Nashville's YouTube page. There's like a whole traffic calming section, and it'll be at the top of that for a little bit.
Can you please send a copy of that to the Mulberry Downs HOA so I can send it out to the community just in case they don't go out there?
Yes, I will
Thank
do
you.
that. It's the HOA Mulberry Downs email address, right?
You already have it.
Okay, yeah, great. Thank you. Question from Andrea.
No, sorry, I meant to raise my hand down. Sorry, I'm good.
Oh,
You answered my question.
No worries. Great. Well, any final thoughts? If not, thank you all very much for coming tonight. This was really good feedback and participation. And yeah, thank you for everyone helping to schedule it and all of that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Of course, y'all have a great night.